have been so outspoken about your faith throughout your career, and sometimes that's come with criticism. How did you and your family deal with the criticism surrounding you practicing the Billy Graham rule and how outspoken you are about that?
In 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verse 22, it talks about you must abstain from the appearance of evil in the King James Version. With that as the backdrop, I want to pose a question, especially in today's world. Should a married man, be on a business trip, be in a meeting by himself with a person of the opposite sex? This has come to light recently based upon the behavior of Mike Pence and the criticism that Mike Pence received because he adhered to the Billy Graham rule.
You have been so outspoken about your faith throughout your career, and sometimes that's come with criticism. How did you and your family deal with the criticism surrounding you practicing the Billy Graham rule and how outspoken you are about that?
Well, thank you for knowing it was the Billy Graham rule. That was
I'm a pastor's kid.
that was where I was inspired, Leah, when I was elected to the Congress of the United States. Um, I was aware of Reverend Graham's practice and his life of integrity and the impact that he had for the gospel all over the world. And his family, his extended family, have become dear friends of ours since. But he was my inspiration, and I must tell you, the first time that practice was reported was in 2001, when a publication known as The Hill simply wrote an article about our family, because we moved our family and our young children to Washington, D.C. while I was serving. And they just wanted to speak to us about, our lifestyle and how we manage things. It was reported without controversy, but after I became vice president, in an article that was otherwise pretty flattering about my wife, the article also mentioned that practice that came to be known as the Pence rule. And it was remarkable that we were being criticized for putting a premium on respecting our marriage and avoiding the appearance of impropriety, and also creating conditions in the workplace that were respectful of the men and women that worked with us. But it wasn't long after that criticism came that the Me Too movement emerged, and many really tragic stories occurred out of corporate America, and I'm pleased that some positive changes have happened in workplaces around the country. It's but for us, I can tell you, whether it was that criticism or whether it was when Mrs. Pence, as Second Lady of the United States, was actually criticized for teaching at a Christian school in suburban Washington that adhered to a biblical view of marriage. We take those things in stride. As the Bible says, we count it all joy.
Yeah. Well, what would you say to critics who say that the Billy Graham rule puts women trying to get mentorship to further their careers at a disadvantage if they can't spend time with their male mentors? I know that was a common criticism I saw. How do you respond to that?
Well, my first lieutenant governor when I was governor was a woman who did a phenomenal job and has gone on to lead the largest community college system in the country. We had women in senior leadership positions in my offices in Congress, on my cabinet when I was governor. I recruited women to our cabinet when I was leading the transition during our administration, and was proud of the team that we built. But the notion that you have to have a private dinner out with a member of your staff, male or female, I think I think it doesn't give enough credit to men and women in the workplace. I mean, The women that worked for me over the years not only understood our rule, but they appreciated it, they respected it. It was a way of showing respect to them as well, and it never hindered their advancement in our organizations. And so many of them not only achieved senior positions in our various offices that we held, but have gone on to extraordinary careers in their own right.
Hey, I want to say, if you haven't done so already, please hit the like button and click subscribe so we can get this message out to as many people as we can to let them know that they're not victims, they are empowered for greatness. And for those of you who don't know what the Billy Graham rule is, this rule was in reference to the ministry upholding their integrity when it comes to sexual morality. And it was the second of 4 rules that Mr. Graham and his team created decades ago. So scrolling on down to the point, the second item on the list was the danger of sexual immorality. We all knew of evangelists who had fallen into immorality while separated from their families by travel. We pledged among ourselves to avoid any situation that would have even the appearance of compromise or suspicion. From that day on, I did not travel, meet, or eat alone with a woman other than my wife. We determined that the Apostle Paul's mandate to the young pastor Timothy would be ours as well. Flee youthful lust. 2 Timothy chapter 1, verse 22. Now, why is this rule under criticism? Number one, people want to say that it will prevent young women from achieving or aspiring because they cannot meet with their male mentor or male boss. And number two, in this age of feminism and women's liberation, people see it as outdated and unnecessary. They see that the men must be something wrong with the women because the men cannot have conversations, lunch, travel with them with just the two of them. So, based on my experience, before I knew about this Billy Graham rule, before I knew about this, I landed in a camp that I wasn't aware of the potential of what this could do to a family, to a marriage, and to the relationship that you may have with your wife. Because you're thinking, as a man, I'm speaking as a man from a biblical perspective, and the Bible tells us, to not think more highly of yourself than we ought to. But you're thinking it's just all professional, it's all business, right? But the devil loves to come in and cause problems. And so once I became aware of this, not saying I did anything inappropriate, but once I became aware of how we have to shun even the appearance of all evil, I made sure not to travel by myself with a woman. I don't even go to lunch with a woman anymore by myself. I don't have meetings by myself with women. If I do, I make sure the door is open. If I have conversations with women that are co-workers, I make sure there are other people in the room to prevent any kind of impropriety being even thought of relating to me. So that's the decision I've made. And as a person that wants to follow in the path of Christ, as a man of God, as a disciple, I want to make sure that I do not give place to the devil at all. And so from my perspective, I agree with this Billy Graham rule, with what Mike Pence has done, because you don't want to open the door to the devil. You don't want to be in a situation to where you are building a relationship with a person of the opposite sex that works with you 8 to 9 hours a day. You're working on long projects and you have those intimate conversations with that person that you don't have with your wife. You don't want to open yourself up to that. So as a rule, I would encourage and admonish men of God who are in the corporate workplace, who have women that work under them, who work with people of the opposite sex, who are married, to adhere to this rule, because it's so easy to be tempted to fall. Especially, trust me, I know about business travel. I know about how you have to drive certain distance with people in your car, how you have to fly to certain places, how you're alone in those hotel rooms, how you have to go dinner when you're out and about before the meetings. I know about those things. And so that is room for the enemy to come in and cause problems. I don't want anybody to be a victim. We're not victims. We are empowered for greatness, but we must use wisdom. Christ told us to be wise as serpents and harmless as doves. We must make sure we shut down any door, any opportune way that the devil may want to come in and destroy marriages, because the devil wants to destroy our marriages. Why do you think marriage is under attack? Marriage is under attack because it is the first institution that God had created. Everything flows from a healthy marriage, healthy children, healthy society, healthy communities, a healthy and prosperous country. All flows from families that are intact, the nuclear family, the biblical family. And one way that the enemy can come in and cause problems is if we allow ourselves to be caught up in these relationships at work, and we open the door by having these private, closed conversations, these private dinners, these dinners out with people that are not our spouses. Hey, I want to say, if you haven't done so already, please hit the like button and click subscribe so we can get this message out to as many people as we can, to let them know that they are not victims, they are empowered for greatness.